Hello friends, James Stevenson back with a fresh video with a new chart that I just created with the help of Flourish.studio, showing operating cash flows and free cash flows for all automakers so that you can do an easy side-by-side comparison. You know, a lot of people say, I'm going to invest in the next Tesla. I'm going to find the next startup electric car maker and buy stock in that one so that I can ride it up the same way Tesla skyrocketed. I missed out on Tesla, so I'm not going to miss the next one. I'll invest in Arrival or, Lucid or Rivian or what have you. I'm joined as always by my co-host Loki, who is up and alert in bed. Hi, Loki. Yes, having already eaten his breakfast this morning. And I'll share my desktop with you, which has the finished product on it. This one is the operating cash flows by automaker here on Flourish.studio. So I've titled this Operating Cash Flows by Automaker. Straightforward, simple, to the point. That's what it is. And I've subtitled it 2019 through 2022, all amounts in millions of US dollars. So why did I not just make this in Excel? Because it's exceedingly difficult to do this kind of thing in Excel. Not that it's extremely complicated to do in Excel. It's just that it's tedious. It's a lot of work to make one of these little mini charts and then have to copy it and paste it and change the colors on it and change the links on it to make it come from the GM section instead of the Tesla section, and then repeat that more than a dozen times for all these little mini charts, right? There's the bottom of the page. Oh, this actually does give you everything on one page. Good. Let me scroll down a little bit. The top of the page is a little repetitive anyway. So this does all fit pretty nicely into an 8x3 grid. So I've got 24 automakers here, 24 exactly. And I've listed Tesla first so that you can find Tesla easily. I made it red because I like to make Tesla red when I show it against all the other automakers. And probably the first thing you'll notice is that Tesla does not have the largest operating cash flows for any automaker, nor should they. Tesla doesn't sell the most vehicles of any automaker in the world, right? Tesla is still ramping up from, less than 1 million vehicles sold back in 2021 to more than 1 million vehicles sold in 2022. This year, possibly making it all the way up to 2 million vehicles sold, or somewhere in that neighborhood. That's in the neighborhood of where my forecast is for Tesla for 2023. So what have they been doing? They've been growing operating cash flows from $2.405 billion back in 2019 to $5.943 billion in 2020 to $11.497 billion in 2021 to $14.724 billion in 2022. So on Flourish, you can hover over any of these values and see what year and what exact amount these were. It was time consuming to get all of this data, but lucky for me, there is an easy enough way of doing it, which is to grab them all from Yahoo Finance. So I should have listed Yahoo Finance as my source, which I did down here at the bottom left, sourcefinance.yahoo.com. And in all cases, what I did was I just looked up the ticker symbol. Here's Tata Motors. You may not be familiar with that name, but they own Jaguar and Land Rover. It's important not to miss this piece. Currency in INR means Indian rupees. That's where Tata is headquartered in India. So these figures are shown in Indian rupees, meaning that I had to copy them out into an Excel spreadsheet and then fix them by converting the currency from, let's see here, this is not it. I bet it's just in my regular forecast model. I save this stuff in lots of different places. Yes, here it is. So operating cash flows by year. Let's find Tata. Yeah, they're way down here at the end. So here's 142 million, billion, 828 million Indian rupees. So we'll find that again. Here it is. And you can see this is shown in thousands, all numbers in thousands. So they've truncated off the last few digits here. So what I typed in was 142,828.3 million. Here, there's that 0.3 you can see in this cell. And then in the section below, I've done the conversion. How many dollars is 1 Indian rupee worth? It's worth 0.012116417 US dollars. So how much is this in US dollars in operating cash flow? It's actually worth 0. It's not worth 0. I accidentally typed a 0 over that cell. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking the Indian rupees, I'm multiplying them by the conversion rate, and that's giving me $1,731,000,000 worth of operating cash flow in US dollar equivalent. So this first section is for operating cash flows, and the second section is for free cash flow. I'll get to that one next. But what you can see is the first line in this section, if you go to the Financials tab, and then if you pick the Cash Flow tab under the Financials tab, that'll give you this screen. Top line is operating cash flow, bottom line is free cash flow. And I went ahead and used this source even for Tesla. The numbers were just a little bit different. I'm not sure how Yahoo Finance is defining free cash flow a little bit differently than Tesla is. Maybe they're just missing some small adjustment. But it was close. Close enough for a big old table of mini charts anyway. So I'll run back to Flourish and show you what else we're looking at. What's GM's operating cash flows? They're not a lot larger than what Tesla reported. You know, about 15 billion is about what GM reports every year, about 15 billion worth of operating cash flows. And then Ford, 1 year reported 24 billion worth of operating cash flows, but that's been falling past 15 billion down to less than 7 billion last year. What about Rivian? Their operating cash flows are negative, so they are not making money on... Hello, Loki. Loki is up and alert because he heard somebody drop off a package on my porch. Oh no, he just heard a package fall over that I'm waiting to have picked up. Hello, Loki. It's okay, buddy. It's okay, little dog. Yes. All right, you can stay with me over here while we look at the other automakers. So Lucid is also down. I think Loki is trying to warn you about the negative operating cash flows that we're seeing from some of the other EV startups here. Rivian, Lucid, Polestar is operating cash flow negative every year. These are small amounts. You can hover over them and see exactly how much they are. But the way that I've organized these, the top row is all presented in US dollars. These are all companies that report in US dollars. Man, you can't even get over that Faraday future when the amounts are so small. The pop-up won't even pop up. But if you wanted to, what you could do in this legend is click to remove or add. So you could say, hey, let's get rid of the big ones. Tesla, GM, Ford, Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, Stellantis. Okay, let's get rid of the big ones. BYD looks pretty big. Having thrown all of those out, they made it to an $18 billion cash flow last year. So the same kind of trend we're seeing from Tesla, BYD is exhibiting in China. So I'll get rid of them. And that leaves us with, well, the scale you can see has changed. So now it doesn't even go to 15 billion in total. Let's knock out a few more. We'll get rid of Renault, Nissan, looking like a powerhouse after you throw the rest of those out. Get rid of Hyundai. They had one really good year with an $8 billion cash flow. Apart from that, it's been slim pickings. Here's Volvo. About $3 billion every year for them. Okay, so now we're left with the real losers. Here's Jaguar Land Rover. I didn't title them Tata here because I didn't think anybody would know what Tata is. I made them Jaguar Land Rover, which is how they brand themselves publicly. So I'll get rid of them too. And that really shows you better the comparison of these small operating cash flow outfits. Mazda here, with not even one year reporting more than $1.5 billion worth of free cash flow. Li Auto looking okay with, $1 billion worth of free cash flow against this set. Against this comparison set, Li Auto looks okay. Rivian, this is not what you want, folks. You don't want your operating cash flows to get larger and larger negatives. That's what we're seeing with Lucid as well. Here's Polestar. Polestar not looking all that great. Arrival, we're finally at a scale where we can hover over these and see what the amounts are. Faraday Future, bigger and bigger operating cash flow negative numbers being reported. Xpeng, really small operating cash flows for them. NIO, not looking that great, but at least positive. They didn't report a 2022 number yet. They may have a weird fiscal year that isn't over yet or something like that. So there's your operating cash flows tour. I did also promise you free cash flows, which is what you get after paying for all of your capital investments. So you take the operating cash flows, you subtract the capital investment that you did in that same time period, and that leaves you with free cash flows. This one looks a little different. Let me republish this and look at it in the same report view instead of in the report builder view. And you can see Tesla's trend is still up. Even after they've paid for their capital, they still have positive and growing free cash flows. What's GM look like? Well, after GM pays for their capital, they're negative every year on the free cash flow line of their statement of cash flows. They've got negative cash flows. What's Ford doing? Most years they've got positive free cash flow. They had an extremely tiny number in 2022, very small. Rivian has negative free cash flows, as you would expect, and Lucid, and Polestar, and Arrival, and Faraday Future. Volkswagen looks pretty good here with positive free cash flow. Really large dollar amounts. You can see the scale here has come down a lot, though. It's not 40 billion anymore. Now it's 25 billion on the y-axis for all these charts. It's important when you do something like this to make all of the y-axes the same, at least for the ones that are visible at a time. BMW and Mercedes-Benz also looking really good at the free cash flow line. I was surprised to see them doing this well. And Stellantis has been showing pretty good free cash flows and trending up lately. So That's surprising. Then you get to Renault, Volvo, really small free cash flow numbers for them. Toyota, surprisingly, a big negative free cash flow number in 2021. You would think they would be looking healthier than this. And they had another negative number in 2022, a real small one. Honda, seemingly okay here with positive free cash flows every year and a good number turned in 2022. Nissan, about what you would expect for them, really small free cash flows and negative most of the time. Mazda, really small free cash flows and occasionally negative. Hyundai Kia, down in the negatives most of the time. They may not have reported a 2022 number, or if they did, it's very small. Xpeng, super small numbers here. NIO, small and negative numbers. Li Auto, getting a little better, but still very small, over $1 billion for the first time in 2022. BYD, again, looking pretty good here with free cash flows of about $5 billion, $4, $5, $6 billion most years. And Jaguar Land Rover, let me scroll down a little bit, with some really small numbers, $1 billion positive being their best year. So just interesting to look at. And remember when you look at these charts that some of these automakers are producing many millions of vehicles to kick out these free cash flows. Now, BMW isn't producing many millions of vehicles, but Volkswagen is. Toyota is producing tons of vehicles. Ford is, right? So in order to get to these free cash flow numbers, they need to put out many, many millions of vehicles. And Tesla is putting these numbers up with, in 2020, 500,000 vehicles sold. In 2021, less than 1 million, 936,000 deliveries in 2021. Over 1 million vehicles, maybe 1.2, 1.3 in 2022, right? So these are really decent free cash flow numbers being put up by Tesla, despite selling far fewer vehicles than most of the companies that had stronger free cash flows. So I will tweet this chart out at some point in the near future and then expect to get a lot of confusion from people when I do. So that's what this video will be good for. I can say, hey, watch the video and see me talk you through why these charts look like they do. But I guess I'll do the same thing I did with the operating cash flows and knock out the highest performers so that we can get a better scale on the ones that are left. We knock out Stellantis here. Who else is doing really well? Well, I guess Tesla is, so I'll knock out Tesla. Honda. BYD is looking pretty good, so I guess I'll cross them off the list. Alright, who's left? Not very many. So we're down to 2 rows now, having thrown out a bunch. And yeah, GM looking really rough here. Rivian, Lucid, Polestar, Arrival, not looking that great. Renault, Volvo. Toyota looking like a really bad year here in 2021. I guess this was a chip shortage problem for them or something, limiting their production and sales. I guess, without diving into it further. But there you go. Those are my new charts. So with that, I will end the video by checking back in with Loki, who is dozing in bed, having gotten over his front porch noise anxiety. And I will outro and say if you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to click the like button. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel over here? You can click the notification bell to get alerted whenever I post fresh content. Thank you to anyone who is so kind as to support my efforts through Patreon or by joining my YouTube channel. As my executive producers Kathy Kitchler and Halter Ferguson Financial did at the highest support tier, earning them a thank you at the end of every video, and I'll see you in the next one.